evening, moms. Welcome to Hope After the Landslide. Yours truly here, Jackie Van Workum, on a Tuesday evening. And this is our time to share with another grieving mama that has been willing to just find that space in her heart. She feels it's just her time, as I said, to be ready and willing to share what her and her family have been through. And Kathi, thank you so much. This is my new friend, Kathi, through these horrible circumstances, but I am just loving the beautiful women that I can call friends that God has brought into my life. And Kathi tonight is, again, we just met, and that's just how it is. But I said to her the other day, I said, "Gosh, it feels like I've just known her forever." She's very calm and cool, and like, "Hey, whatever, however you want me to do this, I'm ready and willing, because I want to do this for God, and I want to do this in the name." And I will say of her awesome son, Joe. And before we start to hear from Kathi, don't forget, I would love to see where you're viewing from. So you can type in the comments where you're viewing from. And if somewhere in the midst of our live broadcast that we say something that touches your heart and we have a question, feel free to just go ahead and put it in the comments, and we will try to address those as we're going along. So again, welcome, Kathi. And if you wouldn't mind sharing just your story with all of us.
Well, thank you, Jackie, for having me. Unfortunately, I'm part of the group that no one wants to belong to, and never thought I'd be sitting here ever talking with you all and talking with Jackie about this. But last year on May 26th, 2017, we lost my son Joe, forever 19, a day that will be seared in my brain forever, the worst day of my entire life. He passed away of an accidental drug overdose, fentanyl-related accident. And on that day that it happened, a lot of publicity surrounded his death, in that one of his friends from childhood growing up also passed away on the same day, that morning. So it brought a lot of publicity, which in a way was a good thing, because on that particular day, Joe's local high school was having their graduation, and the authorities were very concerned that whatever drugs that my son and our neighbor got hold of, that they didn't want any other people to perish after we found our boy. So so since that day, I think that when Joseph was going through his addiction, I kind of felt closed in, and I just had my small tribe of people that knew what I was going through. And I know that as a hurting mom, a lot of you can probably understand that, the shame and the embarrassment. And as a teacher, I didn't want anybody to know about it. But on that day that it happened, I just kind of let all that go to the wayside, because I knew that from that day forward, I would have to be the voice of my son and be his hands and feet, and be able to save other people and honor him that way.
Well said, Kathi. Well said. And I don't know if I missed you when you said about you and the other mom. You found both of your sons staying mourning, and your relationship, and what you said yesterday to me.
The relationship with the boys.
If that hadn't happened, and the conversation now that you'd be having with this new mom, who that I guess has become a friend of yours, right? You're walking.
Right, correct. And we're neighbors, and obviously acquaintances, and known each other for quite some time. Well, we didn't see each other frequently, even though we live right down the street. But we've created this amazing bond together, sadly, and the next day, she and her husband had gone to church, and I was here, and they came into our house, and we just held each other and wept together and shared our same stories. And the boys were so much alike; they weren't together. It was just one of those ironic, sad things that happened. We really can't figure out. Only God knows really why. And I think one of the reasons that I've seen is because of the amount of publicity that drew, because the two of them, within 6-7 houses of one another in our community, brought so much attention. And I think that through that, we've already saved so many other lives. Whereas we talked about if it had just been our son or their son, that, you know, we may not have had the ability to impact as many people. And it's a sad thing, but yet we feel like that together the boys have made a huge difference in other people's lives because of.
Now, did the authorities ever come up with what it was that was the drug of choice? Was it something that was running rampant in the school at that time?
My son was found heroin, and I know that he hadn't done that for very long. And then her son, it was meth. But we found out that both of the boys, we know that they both got from the same neighborhood dealer, and that both of the drugs were laced with fentanyl. Mm-hmm. Once we got the reports back. So, you know, that those couple of grains of salt basically killed two young men that were in perfect health.
Yeah, and then through this unfortunate circumstance, as you said, you know, it does bring an awareness. And, you know, I just was looking at, you know, why is it that human nature, we are so fascinated, if you will, when tragedy happens? You know, we're going to be the first to, you know, do the rubberneck turn as we're driving by an accident. Like you said, there was so much publicity, you know, wrapped around what had happened. And I think that, you know, by human nature, it's like, I think some people want to look, or they want to be inquisitive because they want to kind of maybe dramatically play this in their head as to like how they would react to it. And wow, I wonder what that mom's feeling, and trying to put it into their situation. It's like, because tragedy is something that everybody tries to avoid. And when they could see it happening in someone else's life, they try to see, would I be able to handle that? I mean, that's one of the things. It's an unfortunate high, but yeah, when there's a lot of publicity brought to it, it has its pros and its cons, and, you know, like you said, fortunate and unfortunate.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, that morning, I mean, you know, it's just one of those situations you're just in disbelief, and it's so surreal. I actually had no idea what was going on outside my neighborhood. The only time I found out was when I heard, and then we had to go visit with the funeral home. When we came back, there were news folks in our neighborhood, and we stopped, and I immediately jumped out of the car, and my sister went over and said, "What are y'all doing here?" And they said, "We're here just filming the neighborhood because of what happened this morning." And my sister said, "Well, do you want to speak to one of the moms?" And they said, "Yeah." And they said, "That's my sister right there." And I just went right in front of the camera, like not more than 7 hours later. And I don't even know where it came from. Again, I think it was just God working through me, because I was like, this has got to stop. And so it was just kind of strange how the whole thing, you know, came about, and the publicity. And after that, we were invited to go down to the Georgia State Capitol, and we were in a press conference with the senator of Georgia. She's a very huge advocate for, you know, the opioid epidemic and that. So, you know, I don't know, Jackie, it was just, as I sit here 11 months later and look back, I don't even, and I've talked to the other mom, we don't even know how we did it, or where we are, or how long it's been. It's just a blur, but we just did what we were called to do in each of those moments.
Yeah, agreed. And, you know, in resurfacing, we've heard of that as being frozen. We are in that place where, you know, all we can basically do is, you know, go into the fight or flight. We usually go into the fight as a mom. And then, yeah, and it's almost a protection. Like everything else around us is like not important. Not that people aren't important, but you just have to focus on this trauma and this effect. I want to take a moment because I see some of our friends that have tuned in here. Margie Edwards, thank you for being here, Margie. Margie says, I lost my daughter at least 6 months tomorrow. Wow. And Debbie, hey, Debbie Siciliani's on here. And yeah, these are all of my new beautiful women friends that are strong. Sherry and Kathleen is on here. Linda, and Linda says to Kathi, she's so proud of you. Linda Yuckley, you know her? Or is this just something?
Yeah, Linda's in my grass group. Hi, Linda.
Okay, there you go. And let's see, Mary West, Margie Edwards again, Kathi Taylor, your hero. Kathi Taylor's on here. Yes.
Kathi Taylor.
So
Kathy,
thank you.
she led my Hurting Moms group, and love you, Kathy. And our group was amazing. So if it
Yes.
weren't for her, I wouldn't know about Jackie and her group as well.
Yeah. I mean, it is the sister group. They were the, and just a brief little background on that, which is, Kathy that is here speaking with me was in the hurting group for the moms that have children that are struggling in one way or another. And their children are still alive. They still have that hope. And then the unfortunate happens and that they're so not wanting it to happen, but sometimes it does. And that is that they no longer have the children. Then we lose hope. So Kathy and Sharon both found it necessary to come up with the Grieving Moms. And so here we all are, under these circumstances, but nonetheless, what a beautiful place that God has orchestrated together for us to be able to make it through. Because as I'm watching you, and I've watched some of the other moms, that have been on here, including, I say, Debbie, that she was on here some time ago, to have the strength and the courage and the hope to do what it is that you're doing. So, were you going to say something? I didn't want to mean to cut you off there.
No, I was going to also say to Kathy that when we were in our Monday group together, that another mom in there, Janet Ledoux, is also been very supportive with you all and come on this group as well. And just a quick shout out to Janet. She got me through one of the worst nights of my life, and I don't know if Kathy Taylor even knows this, is that same day that Joe passed away, that night I was afraid to go to sleep, and I was having a hard time sleeping. It was about 1 or 2 in the morning, and so I went into my son's room, my older son's room, and I was like, who can I call? And I knew that you guys were on California time, so I thought, well, I'll reach out to this mom in my Hurting Moms group. And she answered the phone and talked to me for an hour and just calmed me in that worst night of my life. So if it weren't for these groups, I wouldn't have known to do that or had the resources to reach out.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, Janet, and I love Janet. Janet was also a guest here on Hope After the Landslide. And I mean, the support has just been unbelievable. And who are we going to go to? We're going to go to somebody that understands where we're coming from. And we don't want somebody to sometimes fix it. We just want them to hear us. Let us to cry and to give us some kind of a hope and just a reason to want to keep going. And Debbie's saying yes, yes, yes. And I see Sudell. Hi, Sudell. Sudell is one of my longtime friends and neighbors that she's also lost her daughter. So thank you for being here, Sudell. And yeah, the necessity of having support groups after any kind of tragedy, just something that is, again, one of those places that nobody ever wants to be involved in. And that's why we're here. Primarily, we're here to love on all of you mamas and to give you that hope and to tell you that you're not alone and to tell you that even if you're living in a small town, that you can still be connected very simply. It's just a very simple click on a link and you just get on and you're going to go through the resurfacing book together and you're going to see a screen that is just like you're looking at. And we always say it looks like the Brady Bunch. And everybody gets to share, and it's not intimidating. And I think the hardest part is just saying, I'm going to sign up and actually signing up. So, yeah.
And I will have to say, when I joined the Hurting Moms group, I was very nervous about it, but you could tell that we were all nervous about it. So we had that common, feeling there. But I mean, it disappeared within the first 10 minutes. And it is kind of a big step. But once you do it, it's so rewarding and so necessary to get through what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're all in it together, and everybody is. They're so worried about, like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to cry? And so if everybody's worrying about what everybody's going to think about, like them, then guess what? Nobody's really thinking. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's really looking around at anybody else, not judging them. They're just concerned about how to. And I keep saying this, but the word courageous means sharing the story from your heart. That's what courageous means. It means God created us for relationships, and He wants us to link together in all situations because we will never understand His ways. But when these things happen, we need relationship. We need one another. We need the body of Christ, and to be able to share what happened. I just wrote something yesterday that said, if the world would just be more transparent, how much more love and empathy. And I said, not about whining not about like complaining. I'm just saying things like, I'm really struggling with the loss of my child. And why is that so difficult for some people? I don't know. And I'm respecting where everybody's at. Because some of us seem to be, we can be more private, and you know, and that's okay. And not to change gears so severely, but we talked about the word courageous, which then brings us to something that cheered you up, because we want to talk about Mother's Day for a moment, right, Kathi? And I know that this is your first Mother's Day without Joe, but then you had something come in that made you laugh, maybe?
This was my first Mother's Day. In fact, last Mother's Day was just one of my best days ever. My son Joe had just gotten out of the detention center up here, and we went and picked him up. And first thing he said to me was "Happy Mother's Day, Mom," and it was just the best day. So to be honest with you, I was dreading Mother's Day, and I didn't even really want to acknowledge it. So we really didn't. My older son called up and said, "It's your day." And he wouldn't even say, you know. So, but the thing was, you know, I woke up and I just, you know, was reading and journaling, and just the tears streaming down my face, just not overwhelming, but just seeping. And then I got on Facebook and logged in, and then I saw Jackie, and Jackie was jumping out of a porta potty as Wonder Woman. So I'm like, and so it did make me smile. I'm like, you're crazy. And I'm thinking, if this grieving mom can do this, well, then I better wipe it off and have my time, and let's get on with it. So then I took the dog for a walk, and parents came over, and so, you know, so it just, sometimes it just takes that one thing to break that smile, and just kind of, but you know, not to neglect the tears, and taking that time to sit with it is so important as well, but not just stay there.
Yeah. And, you know, we have to, I mean, it's almost like a juggling act of emotions that we can have. Like you said, 1 minute, you know, you're crying, and really, really feel that, ladies. Don't try to ignore it. You know, if you're sitting next to somebody and you feel like you've got to cry, I don't know how many times I've been told, just let it out, because it's going to go somewhere. It's going to store itself someplace else in your body. You might as well just let it out. And then the next minute is, I mean, and don't feel guilty about laughing. You know, when I even did, he's referring to the Wonder Woman thing. We had a Courageous Women of Dirt event. It's a mountain biking event, and short and briefly, we were standing. We decorate the porta potties because they can be so not welcoming sometimes. We made one a Wonder Woman one, and all of a sudden it just came to me, and that's why I pretended like I was going in and changing into Wonder Woman. So, and I don't feel guilty about laughing. I mean, that's my go-to. Like it is like for you, I can tell. And as a PE teacher, I'm certain that there's a lot of moments that you get to laugh.
There's a lot of laughing.
Yeah.
But one of the first things I learned was that it's okay to cry, and I'm not a big crier. But I learned that those tears are healing tears, and like you said, if you don't, there's nowhere for it to go, and then you're going to feel the physical. My body was hurting, my physical pain. But you have to learn to lean into it and kind of let that go, and then, you know, the waves of that grief get smaller and smaller, and they come and go, and you just learn to roll with them, and you recover a little bit faster each time.
Yeah, leaning into it. I like that. I mean, if you picture something like, if you think about a football player, you know, he said gets into that defensive mode, and not to see you becoming this, but you're leaning into it, you're preparing yourself like you're ready for that. Versus if you lean back, it's easy for you to just fall over. So not lean with confidence and just be willing to accept it. Hold on a second, because they're getting some. Every tear you shed is a tear of love and healing. Thanks, Debbie. And hi, Cindy. The sorrow, anxiety, guilt, stress from losing my daughter caused me to have the broken heart syndrome, AFib. It's real, mamas. Yes, it definitely is, Stephanie. We are praying for your healing. And Margie had a complete breakdown on Saturday, cried and cried. Sunday was just a little bit better. And let's see, I just want to make sure I miss anybody here. And ladies, you know, we were talking earlier about, well, sometimes if we're going to cry, and with all due respect to, you know, our husbands or daddies or significant others, like men and women are going to grieve differently. And that's why these support groups are so important. And everybody's like, well, how do I get involved in the support groups with Grieving Moms Finding Hope? And I'm always like, I'm feeling so obnoxious. I keep saying like how to do it, and then I still get people asking me how to do it. So you're going to have to hear me keep So at the top of the video, or sorry, the Facebook Live, there's a link. Click on it, and then you can get yourself involved in a group and have a simple conversation, just like Kathi and I are having. And there's no judgment. It's a safe place. I can all of a sudden start crying, and I know on one of these Facebook Lives I probably will, because I had a day. I have a lot of days. You know, we all have a lot of days. And that's okay. It is our unfortunate journey, but it's better, as we keep saying, to do that with other moms. And I'm so thrilled to know that you know Kathi Taylor. You and I can banter back and forth, and yeah, she's good people.
Yeah.
Cindy said, Rose already got that one. Is there something, Kathi, that you would like to share with the moms that are healing right now, that you could say that, and I think you shared with me yesterday, that you felt God just all of a sudden, and I think it was in a group setting when someone shared. Can you remember what that is?
Yes. I just, initially, we've been going to church every week, and praying every day, and just praying that I prayed that Joe would have someone cross his path that would help him and would change his outlook, and my husband would pray for healing and that sort of thing. And then when this happened, I felt very faithful at the time, but then our priest came to visit, and he said it's okay to be angry, and I thought, I'm not angry, thank God, right now. And then almost like a day or two later, I guess he planted the seed, and I realized, well, yes, maybe I am angry. And so for a while there, I couldn't really see where God was, and how this was, how this was supposed to work out. And I think I'm seeing that a little clearer now. But in a group that I just joined recently, and I've been in a lot of groups. I'm a big proponent of groups, and I've been in therapy in groups since 5 weeks after Joe passed away. If not before that, we were in groups. But I was in a group recently, and I don't know if any of them are watching, but I started this group in January, and part of their prayer is always to ask, where is God in the room? Where's God? What does he want me to know today? What does he want me to know now? And about 2 months in, within my prayer, I had we share, and a lady that was sitting next to me saw God sitting at my feet with his hands on my knees and just was with me. And so that gave me the courage to share what I'd seen. And for the first time, I actually had seen Jesus holding Joe in that room where we found him, where in that day it was just him and his dog, and I had no concept of even thinking that Jesus was in the room. And then in March, it just came to me. And strangely enough, after that, a friend, I think Linda, she's still on our Grass Facebook page, posted a picture of Jesus hugging their child as they entered into his arms. And I thought, right after I had that vision, I saw that picture. And it's just strange how it all orchestrated itself. So that gave me a lot of peace in that thought. And anyway, I'd be glad to share that picture with anybody that's interested, but it just changed my whole outlook on where he was in that room that day.
I love that. And I think I've seen something similar to that. But it's just to know, I think, we tend to need a visual every now and again to know what that is, because, we're humans, and our finite minds, we don't know what that looks, but I mean, it's indescribable. And I think God has intended it that way. In fact, you were talking about how things happen. And just before Kathi and I went on, I said, if there's a certain scripture or anything you want to share, and she went upstairs to go get a necklace, which she's going to share with you. And then I'm sitting there, I'm looking for a scripture, and I'll let you finish the story.
Well, it's a shield that my dear friend Julie gave me. It's a shield on a sterling silver chain with a cross. And the scripture on the back is from Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And so I told Jackie, so I'm going to run upstairs and get this necklace because I wanted to share it. And the scripture is so important to me. And I ran back down, and we're getting ready to start. And honestly, I thought you were looking up the scripture that I was telling you, but you weren't. Jackie had already pulled up the scripture she wanted to share, and it was the same scripture. So, I mean, it's a God thing. So sometimes those moments, you start to see those kinds of moments, and they really just let me know that Joe's looking out for me, and there's a connection here that's needing to happen. And that's big. So that really meant a lot. I was like still trying to figure that one out.
There's 66 books, right, in the Bible, and we both landed on Joshua in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Random thing. That's so God. Darnell is on here, and she's just sharing. That's the only comfort in any of it, to know that my baby is being held by Jesus. And she said she has the same necklace. Wow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that's
awesome. Yeah.
I really do, ladies. I love the connections that are made here. It is so warming and endearing to my heart to see that you guys are all starting to connect on here, because that's, again, what this is so much about. And I also want to invite you to not only get involved in the group, and the link I thought I put at the top of here, but again, if it's not, I know I did. I don't know where it's at, but at the end you'll see it there. Again, if you want to be able to get into a group. And then the other part of it is that for an additional support, because we only meet once a week, but every day I have a hope at sunrise that I post. And if you don't get on Facebook all the time, you can ask for it to be sent to your own private email by signing up for that on the grievingmoms.com website. And I really, really welcome that. And I'm hoping to get those assembled into a nice little book to get to share, because I have to have something tangible in my hand. I love technology, and I love the Kindles and everything, but I just have to have that book so I can mark it and add it and all that. Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the ladies?
Well, I was just going to say in regards to those connections. When this happened with me, I two things I said was giving up is not an option, and number two is I can't do this alone. So I know Jesus is with me every day, but I also have such a bond with women that some of them I've never met, like Jackie I just met, and I tell them, I said, if it weren't for my son, I would never have met you. And so to me, that's huge, because I've met some of the most amazing, compassionate, faithful people that I never would have met. And I thank my son every day for that.
Yes. And we will see them, together. And now Joe and Randy and so many of our kids, they all know one another, and they are saying, "Go, Mom, go, just keep going, Mom," because your time here is so short in the grand scheme of things. Just keep doing and bring more to Jesus, because He is amazing. And you just wish you could hear them, and just the angels singing around them. And I think it was just like Lisa that shared last week, and some of the other moms. It's just one day closer. Every day goes by, it's one day closer that we're going to get to seeing our children. And at the end of the day, you know what? We're all Wonder Women. There's not just one Wonder Woman. We're all Wonder Women. If we can survive this, you know what? Pretty incredible, and it's only done through God. And I am going to keep you in mind, my dear new friend, as the date is going to be approaching. I think that, as we can honestly say, the harder part is building up to the day, and then the day comes, but it's the building up to the end of it. There's so many things, like, you got through all of those that first year. So, Kevin, you know that I'm here and we're all here, and we will definitely be connecting, in between that time. But I just want you to know that I am going to pray for you, okay?
I appreciate that. Yeah. The next few weeks are going to be tough, but
yeah. Yes, but you will do it. There's not an option. There's no other choice.
Not an option, so we'll get through it. But I appreciate that. I may be calling some of y'all out there to hold my hand through it.
Just like you do with Janet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, again, ladies, Hope After the Landslide here every Tuesday night. And if you are ever interested and you're ready to share your story, I would love to have you as my guest, Jacke at grievingmoms.com. I know it's like, when you can, you will. But again, the link will be at the top here. If you want to join a group, you go to grievingmoms.com if you want to receive Hope at Sunrise, the daily devotion in your box. And I just love you, friend. God bless you.
Thank you. It's so wonderful talking with you. I really appreciate it, Jackie. Thank you for letting me come on.
It wasn't that hard, right?
No, it wasn't that hard at all.
I'm not that scary.
You make it easy. You make it easy.
Oh, thank
I
you.
glanced down at the clock. I'm like, it's 9:20 already? I mean, 6. No, you mean we're almost done?
I told you. Well, you
Yeah.
can always come back. I guarantee there will be other opportunities for you to come back and share more. Okay.
Okay, that would be great.
All of you, thank you for being here. Good night.
All right. Good luck with your next group. All right. Bye.